And they're playing with value. Where is it darker? Where is it lighter? They're playing with that line, the edge, overlap. You okay? One thing on top of another, the overlap, the red paint. And they're using, remember that first morning when we did the drawing, we talked about those notches. You know, the way like making this angle and going in a little darker, or this angle going in a little darker, this angle going in a little darker. See? And it like notches in. You know, we talked about also the way Cézanne flipped forward the picture plane, the experience of the space. Right? So it wasn't this deep space from Turner or, you know, all that deep perspective. It just flipping forward. And they're certainly continuing that. So we have space, but it's shallow space, and they're carving into shallow space.
Why so tonal?
You mean like, why not bright colors?
Yeah, they're very limited palette.
Well, that's a good question. My hunch is they're trying to simplify formally the situation in order to experiment more specifically with certain things. And that color would makes it more complicated. And you know, so they're moving into the first phase of Cubism, which we call Analytic Cubism, and then it moves into Synthetic Cubism. With Synthetic Cubism, there is more color, although you really don't have anyone getting really intense with color until you have like Delaunay, you know, Sonia and Robert Delaunay and the Orphism, another ism. Wow. But it, you know, the play of form and space and edge, and you know, it's like complicated enough, and they wanted to just, you know, see what they could do there. Yeah, intense, huh?
They're really not all that flat. I mean, really.
No, they're not flat at all. They're not flat at all.
Yeah.
It's not deep space. It's again, it's like that diorama, or you open up your closet, but it's like a real intense jumble in there.
There's a bottle there, there's a guitar there. You see the strings.
Mm-hmm.
How long were they working on these for?
You know, I don't know how long a particular painting would take. Picasso tended to work faster than Braque. They would go to each other's studios like every day and compare and see what they were doing. I think one of them described themselves as two mountaineers that were tied in together climbing a mountain. Things changed radically after World War I. They didn't have the same kind of relationship after that. But they were really exploring together this, you know, extraordinary territory, new territory. And this is, I mean, so Cézanne breaks the conventions and rules from the time of the Renaissance. But he's still working from observation, working with the represented world this way. These guys are creating a radical new universe, an alternate universe. And we don't really have that since the time of the Renaissance. You know, before that we have an alternate universe, and we have, you know, these, we have the icons, and we have this.
אבל עדיין זה מראה כמה סזן היה חשוב, כיוון שאחריו אנחנו רואים את הדוגמאות האלה שהוא בעצם היה...
Sure, and not just the Cubism, but without Cézanne we wouldn't have Matisse. I mean, we probably wouldn't have Soutine. We wouldn't have, I mean, there's a lot of things that come out of it.
אבל גם שני אלה, לא?
Oh yeah, right, yeah, sure.
זה היה הפריצת דרך. בעצם סזן, למרות שהוא שונה, הוא פרץ את הדרך.
Yeah.
So Matisse is living at the same time. He's a contemporary.
Oh yeah, Matisse. So Matisse was, at the same time that they're doing this, Matisse and a group of painters are the fauves. They're the wild beasts using this really bright color. Okay, and at first Matisse is seen as taking on the mantle of the avant-garde. Now this is the big deal. Like the avant-garde was a really big deal. Like who was king of the avant-garde? And you know, leading the way, right? Because that was this whole thing with modernity. You know, finding the new world, creating a new vision, a new world. And for a while, Matisse was the guy, and then it became Picasso, and Cubism, you know, became more important than what Matisse was doing. Matisse was started to be seen as a bourgeois painter. It was just pretty. It was just beautiful, right? And I mean, this actually carried on really until the 80s. Until the 1980s. Matisse was seen as someone who went from being a more radical painter to a more decorative, bourgeois, easy, pleasing painter, right? Oh, wow. Okay, here. So you can see the way this is, who is this? Picasso. The way he's thinking and setting it up, right? Not so different in a way than the kinds of drawings we were doing 2 days ago in the morning from the still life, thinking about Cézanne. Moving through rhythms, lines to delineate where edges are, responding to the motif and to the rectangle. Here, I imagine it's an invention. I mean, it looks like it. I don't think he's standing out there.
At what time in his life were those? Early?
Oh yeah, he's a young man.
Yeah.
He's a young genius. He's one of those.
All the way to the very
what
end.
years are we to before World
This
War One?
is 1909, 1910, somewhere
Just
in there.
before the World War
Yeah,
One.
yeah, just before.
And after the war, is that when he broke through with more
Broke
color?
through with more color. There's more color afterwards. Yeah. But they're different. They're not really, it's not, the painting changes. I'll show you.
That his mother, that his wife celebrated. Beautiful, that hand down below.
This is Picasso, this is Braque.
Picasso went on to be more successful than Braque, no?
More famous.
More famous.
But
I guess Braque was less of a
Braque
businessman.
is no slouch. I mean, he's a pretty amazing painter. His studio paintings, his late studio paintings, are really.
How did they vary?
How do they vary
Yeah.
from each other?
Yeah.
At this period of time, hard to know. At this period of time, it could be a real guessing game. Am I looking at a Braque or a Picasso? One thing that I've tended to think when I've seen them that Braque seems to be dealing a little more with space and the openness of space and the way space impacts form. And Picasso seems to be more engaged with form and really wrestling and wielding form.
No later is a big difference.
So here you can see, you know, he's taken the idea of the human figure, this is Picasso, and really running with it.
Yeah.
And wow, you know, I mean, this is just radical invention. He's, you know,
The woman and the man. Yeah, both of them.
I mean, it's like playing and then like, well, that's sort of like the body, and then, okay, let's kind of go with that and kind of building. But he's, again, it's lines, hatching, dark, light, a kind of a blend out and then into a straight line. You see how this is working? What the terms are? So we've got this gradation of value from a light to a dark. Part of that goes and just spreads out into lightness. Part of it goes and gets darker and hits a line. Doing that, they are creating a sense of something going in, something being on top. Lines, planes, pockets, and so they're kind of sculpting
Yes, but it has
through
also
the forms, with the forms, and jumbling them up. So a lot of what we're seeing here is just sheer play. They're just exploring, well, what can I do with these terms? What can I do with these terms that we've gotten from Cézanne? How could I play with them in their own terms? How could I take these formal elements, extract them, abstract them, extract them from the observed actual world, take them, and create a new world? Okay? Yeah.
I mean, I see also a connection here to African sculpture.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was, for sure. So there's tribal art, there's the African tribal art that influences them. Yes.
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 At this time they were sculpting also.
Yeah, they're sculpting also.
Okay.
Sculpting is vitally important.
Right?
Hmm?
Collage?
No, collage comes a few years later. But yeah, it's them. Actually, I think it was Braque first, and then Picasso ran with it, if I got that right.
Yeah, Braque worked with all these paper things with cotton walls, and I really moved them.
Yeah, that's right. So here you can see the play of the figure in the space.
You could use a model.
So this is the guitarist, of course. Can you all tell what we're looking
Yeah,
at?
there was another one.
And this is Woman with a Mandolin. Of course, clearly. So you know, in a lot of ways, these motifs of the figure, the instruments, the still life, the landscape, they are, to a certain extent, excuses to play with space and form and see what are the implications and what can we do with it. So warm and cool with the black and the brown. Things getting lighter, things getting darker, coming into corners,
Actually, there's no black.
using the whole rectangle. Hmm? Hmm.
הם הצליחו לעבוד בשיתוף פעולה.
You mean on the same painting?
לא, אני עם ברק ופיקאסו הצליחו לעבוד בשיתוף פעולה, כי יש הרבה תחרות בין ציירים.
Oh yeah, no, well it was both. In other words, yeah, for sure they were competing with each other, but in a very creative way too. I mean, they would try to outpaint each other, but they were also working together. You know, like a chavruta. I mean, it was like, no, I've got the perush here. You know, it's like, no, I do. You know, and right, but it was a very creative tension. It probably didn't last right after, right?
Yeah, well,
What years did he go through?
You know, I don't know the history that well, but we're looking at, I don't know, I mean, what are we talking about? Maybe half a dozen years or more? It's got to be something like that. I mean, it's a while. You know,
yeah.
what was it, that book? Was it Malcolm Gladwell? Someone talking about no, it wasn't him. The pairs of the creative partnerships.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like Lennon McCartney.
Right.
Yeah.
who's that?
That's one of the dealers.
And who is that? Who's painting Picasso?
That's Picasso.
Picasso.
He also knew how to draw. I mean, he didn't start on this until he knew how
Oh, of course. No, these guys
Oh my
could
God.
really.
They knew how to
Of
draw.
course.
Right, right.
They could.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
color there.
Sure.
Yeah, another color
That's
there.
good.
Yeah, here's a little bit of color.
I just feel like people try to do this these days, but they don't know how to draw first, so
Yeah.
that's understanding.
Wow, amazing stuff. Another face in there.
That's amazing.
Huh?
So mathematic.
You want a model?
The light,
Sit.
the light is jumping in different places.
Yes.
It's not necessarily
consistent.
Consistent planes. It's not this.
No, they're not. They're definitely not
And
creating a
channel.
consistent source of light.
No.
They are not creating a logical situation. If you were to take this and try to build it in the world, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, you take these Cubist paintings, and they're constructions that work in this crazy world, but you couldn't actually build them.
Or some
Or some of them
nice
maybe, but
building.
most of them you really could say, well, where do I put that, or where do I put